Naruto Uzumaki, our beloved protagonist, gets a bit of a bad rap for being a one-trick pony Shadow Clone Rasengan spammer in the series. The classic meme is that a new, powerful, epic villain arrives. Oh, can't wait for him to be defeated by a Rasengan. Because yeah, of course Naruto's arsenal isn't the most varied in the series, even though the wiki page states that Naruto has a bazillion jutsus. Let's be real, most of those are Rasengan variants. I mean, what's the Vermilion Rasengan? It's just a purple Rasengan. The Odama Rasengan, it's a slightly bigger Rasengan. The Cho Odama Rasengan, it's a big Rasengan. The Rasenshuriken, it's a long-range Rasengan. And then there are all flavors of different Rasenshurikens as well. And the list goes on and on. There are so many types of Rasengan. The dude loves his Rasengan. And yeah, this can get a bit stale and not very creative. I mean, how many Rasengans can you make until they get boring? But let's analyze this fight style that Naruto has that seems to be very samey more in detail and see if he really is a one-trick pony. The answer may surprise you. First, we have to begin by the beginning, by part 1 of the series, where Naruto actually doesn't even have the Rasengan. He only has the Shadow Clone Jutsu. This limits the character's fighting potential even more. Now his strategy boils down to using the Shadow Clone Jutsu and attacking the opponents in taijutsu using kunais, shurikens, and all that good kind of stuff, right? Well, not exactly. Even when Naruto didn't have the Rasengan, he didn't have only the Shadow Clone Jutsu going for him. Take the first fight against Zabuza, for example. He uses the Shadow Clone Jutsu to his advantage, of course, but the big beat in the fight is because of the transformation jutsu, where Sasuke tosses the shurikens and they transform into Naruto. He tosses the kunai and releases Kakashi from the water prison. So Naruto can use his shadow clones with strategy combining with other jutsus, which is very interesting. Also, we see Naruto has more stuff when he goes berserk with the Nine-Tails' chakra and almost kills Haku. Now, this isn't so much something Naruto is under control. He's kind of going all out and not really knowing exactly what's happening, so I'm not really going to count as a jutsu he has. It's more of an imp, but it still adds variety to Naruto's fights. When we move on to the Chunin exams, Naruto eventually gets the summoning jutsu, which is also really cool. When he summons Gamabunta to fight Gaara, that's a very interesting looking fight, on top of being very emotional as well. And the way Naruto beats Gaara is also using the transformation jutsu, and it's a very nice moment where Naruto transforms Gamabunta and himself into the Nine-Tails, which is really amazing. We see the connection and Naruto, oh, hold on, I have this thing inside of me. I guess I'll just transform Gamabunta into it. And the moment you see that happening, it gives you goosebumps. But just going back to the Chunin exams and the Forest of Death and all that, we have to understand that almost every character in the Konoha 12, the Sound Ninjas, the Sand Siblings, they only had 1 or 2 jutsus, and they molded their entire fighting style around it. Shikamaru had Shadow Possession, Choji had big limbs and meatball, Ino, mind transfer, Temari, she blew wind, Kankuro, he had puppets, Gaara, sand, Neji, gentle fist, Rock Lee, gates, Tenten, kunais, Hinata, gentle fist, Shino, bugs, Kiba, he had Akamaru and Fang over Fang, Sakura didn't really have anything unless we talk about substitution jutsu and other things you just learned in the academy, and even Sasuke, the guy that becomes known for having a billion jutsus later on in Naruto Shippuden, only has the Sharingan and a couple of fire-style jutsus. Now, of course, they all use taijutsu as well, so I'm not really counting this here, but none of them has this big, gargantuan arsenal of powers. And it's very much implied that the average Chunin or even Genin in the Naruto world is gonna know the basic jutsus, like the transformation jutsu, the substitution jutsu, and he's probably gonna have 1 or 2 jutsus that are his signature abilities, and he's gonna fight around those jutsus. They're not gonna know a billion jutsus. This seems to be much more of a high elite ninja thing. And everyone loves the Chunin exams, everyone loves the Sasuke retrieval arc, and yes, the characters learn more jutsus by the Sasuke retrieval arc, but they kind of just learn a power-up of their previous jutsu. For example, Shikamaru Orochimaru learns how to strangle people with his shadows instead of just imprisoning them. Rock Lee knows how to get drunk. Neji learns the rotation and the 128 palms. Actually, he already knew those, so he doesn't learn anything. Kiba can make the big two-headed hound. Choji gets the pills, which is really cool. And Naruto learns the Rasengan in the previous arc, which is, well, his signature ability until the end of the series. And side note, the first Rasengan Naruto uses against Kabuto is one of the most emotional scenes in the entire series. It's amazing. But you can see that jutsu variety isn't really a thing. Now, if you go to the Hiruzen versus Orochimaru fight, yeah, that's gonna have more jutsus because they are much higher level opponents. Also, the Itachi versus Kakashi, Kurenai, and Asuma fights. And the Sound 4, they had more jutsus as well. They had a lot of variety, even more than the ninjas they fought against in the Sasuke retrieval arc, but it wasn't something amazing like Sasuke in the end of Naruto Shippuden, where he has a billion different jutsus. And people didn't really complain about Naruto being a one-trick pony in part 1. They were fine with it, and that's probably because that was the norm for ninjas of his caliber. Even Sasuke in the Valley of the End, well, he knew the fire-style jutsus. He kind of had the cool kunai technique Itachi taught him. You know, you toss the kunai on another kunai, they divert the path, and you hit something behind a rock. And of course, he had the Chidori as well. But it's not as though they had amazing jutsu variety. Now, of course, Sasuke also has the curse mark, which is kinda like the Nine-Tails' chakra. They are not jutsus per se, they're more amps, but they also serve to give the characters more variety during the fight. Their final battle in the Valley of the End, when you just take a look at the powers, is much more concerned at the progression of their abilities. The Sharingan, the Nine-Tails, the curse mark, and how each character was one-upping each other, and then the other character one-up the other, and it goes on and on until they clash the Chidori and the Rasengan the final time. And what an amazing idea that was. The Chidori Rasengan clash is just so good to look at. I wouldn't change that for anything. But of course, after the time skip, characters begin to learn many more abilities, especially Sasuke, and I believe Sasuke gets compared to Naruto a lot. And when you compare just the amount of jutsus they know, it is a big difference, because when Sasuke is fighting against Itachi, for example, he is pulling all types of jutsus. Orochimaru's jutsus, fire style, Chidori, Kirin. And when Naruto is fighting against Kakuzu, for example, he's using the Shadow Clones and Rasengan number 553. So yeah, Naruto does have way fewer jutsus than Sasuke, but the way he uses the Shadow Clones changes. For example, in the fight against Gaara in the forest, back in the Chunin exams, Naruto used the 5,000 Shadow Clones very well. He used them as platforms to jump mid-air, and then he was able to stab Gaara in his rear end with an explosive kunai, which was a very effective technique. It's not as though Naruto only used the Shadow Clones the same way, like just bomb rushing the opponent. No, he does change the techniques he uses with them a lot. But the thing is, Naruto doesn't really get much to do in Naruto Shippuden up until the pain fight. We have to be honest here. The best thing he learns in the time skip in terms of jutsu is a slightly bigger Rasengan, and a lot of people feel very disappointed with that. They think Naruto should have learned way more stuff in the time skip. I agree. I think that learning other types of jutsus, not Sage Mode or Rasenshuriken, but for example, maybe wind-style jutsus that are not as powerful as the Rasenshuriken would be a good addition to his arsenal and give the character more variety during fights. But Naruto doesn't really get a big fight until the Kakuzu fight, and when Naruto arrives and fights Kakuzu, that's by far the worst part of that fight. It's really rushed. Kakuzu gets taken out like an idiot by 4 Naruto clones, and that was able to distract him enough for Naruto to hit him 2 times with the Rasenshuriken. It's just the first time the Rasenshuriken fizzled out. So Naruto didn't really get a set-piece battle up until the pain fight in Naruto Shippuden, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. Sakura had the set-piece battle in the Kazekage rescue mission, and then the Nine-Tails had the set-piece battle in the Tenchi Bridge arc. Now, sure, of course, that's Naruto, and you could say the Nine-Tails is giving the character there more variety to his arsenal, but that's version 2 Nine-Tails. Naruto's not even under control. It's essentially a different character fighting Orochimaru there. The fight against Kakuzu then, it was lackluster. Kakashi versus Kakuzu was much better, and Naruto just arrives, the arc ends very rushed. The editors were actually hurrying Kishimoto up to finish that arc, so it just had to be done really quickly and in a not very satisfying way, but the Pain fight is great. Naruto versus Pain is obviously one of the best fights in the series, and Sage Mode Naruto is probably my favorite Naruto version. That character actually has a lot of variety. Of course, he still has all the Rasengans, but he uses them much more creatively here. He's using the dual Rasengan to take out the animal path, the big Rasengans to take out the summons, and of course the Rasenshuriken to assault the main paths of Pain. He even uses a very clever strategy to transform one of his clones into a Rasenshuriken so that he fools the Preta path to absorb the transformation jutsu while he thinks he was absorbing the Rasenshuriken, and that allows him to take out the Naraka path, which was really important in the fight. Also, then Naruto fights in conjunction with his summons, which provide a lot of variety to the battle as well. The big summons, as well as Fukasaku and Shima using their paralysis genjutsu and their other stuff, summoning the Naruto clones from Mao Miyoboku so that Naruto can reactivate his Sage Mode. That aspect of the fight was so good. It was strategic, it was intelligent. Naruto also had the Frog Taijutsu where he didn't have to touch his opponents and the punches would still connect. A really powerful and interesting ability. Sage Mode Naruto is awesome. He also looks awesome with a red cape, and unfortunately Kishimoto decided to take the cape away because it was kind of hard to draw and it would take too much time to draw it, especially because Naruto is the character with the most screen time. Of course, we also have the Six Tails appearance there, and this even adds more variety and emotions to the fight, but the fight's great, nobody's gonna argue with that. The thing is, Sage Mode Naruto, he does have a lot of variety. I love Sage Mode Naruto and the powers he brings up to the table. Even his Sage Mode amps, where he is much more powerful just physically speaking and durable, those are cool as well. Naruto also uses a very clever strategy with his Shadow Clones to defeat the Diva Path in the end of the fight. First, he transforms a bazillion of them into rocks and almost corners Pain down, but he manages to use Shinra Tensei, and then he uses a small army of Shadow Clones to resist another Shinra Tensei, and then he uses the clones again to toss the real Naruto, and he nails Pain with a Rasengan in that very nice scene in the end of the Pain fight where he says, "Give up trying to make me give up," mimicking Jiraiya's words. It's great. So you can even see that when he was using his most default abilities there, the spamming Rasengans and clones, he was still being pretty clever and using different strategies. After this, we get a more controversial amp, the KCM mode, which, well, let's see what this gives Naruto. Of course, he still has access to his summons, even though he chooses to use them much less. He gets access to his chakra limbs, which he can extend to reach out to opponents that are further away and hit them with a Rasengan. Let's be real, he's still spamming Rasengan and Shadow Clones even more so. He has the planetary Rasengan. He does use his limbs to catch his own Rasenshuriken and redirect it against the third Raikage, which is a really cool usage of the limbs, but I am not really a fan of those chakra limbs. They can look a little silly. KCM Naruto, yeah, he's pretty one note. He's just using the same old jutsus, Rasengan and Shadow Clones, and the occasional extra limbs, but he's not nearly as cool as Sage Mode Naruto. I think KCM 1 Naruto is my least favorite version of him. KCM 2 does add a bit more variety with the Bijudama, which looks cool, but let's be real, it's essentially a more destructive Rasenshuriken. It is cool to see Naruto use it though, don't get me wrong. And he also gets the Kurama avatar, which is a big deal, especially because now Sasuke is also getting the Susanoo and all that, so Naruto wouldn't need an avatar-like thing to compete against him. Naruto can use his Shadow Clones, his Rasengan, his Sage Mode in conjunction with his Kurama avatar because it's a chakra avatar, so he is not stuck in the body of a tail beast like B is, for example, when he transforms into the 8 tails. And of course, Kishimoto did that so that Naruto could get more variety, because just making him transform into the 9 tails itself would be a little bit one note, because yeah, the 9 tails would be powerful, it would hit very hard with the claws and tails, use the Bijudama, but that would be pretty much it. In this Kurama avatar state, Naruto can go in and out of the state and do more things, which is important because he's the main character and you need some flexibility in his powers to work with a story. And of course, in Naruto Shippuden, characters know many more abilities than they used to in part 1, especially the antagonists. Pain, for example, has the most diverse arsenal, and you know, every other Rinnegan user in theory has the same abilities as well. Obito's using 6 Jinchurikis at the same time. They all have different abilities. Some have Kekkei Genkais and all kinds of stuff. Madara also has a diverse arsenal with the Rinnegan power, the Susanoo, the wood style. Itachi has a lot of abilities as well with the Madarasu, the Susanoo, Tsukiyomi. But some characters still remain pretty conservative in terms of how many jutsus they have. Even Kakashi, who's supposed to be the guy that knows 1,000 jutsus, he's not the one that uses a lot of jutsu variety in Naruto Shippuden. He resorts a lot to his Raikiri and his Kamui. This is pretty much everything the character does. Yeah, of course, he uses a couple of other jutsus here and there, but he doesn't seem to be 1,000 jutsus guy that everyone claims he is. And then, of course, after KCM 2, when Naruto manages to infuse it with Sage Mode, which in theory doesn't change that much, it makes the character with the Sage Mode marks, and it also makes him effective against Obito, but other than that, the characters really had a lot of variety out of it. And after that, he gets 6 paths in Jutsu, which Hagoromo gave to him. It's a very massive amp, and let's be frank here, Naruto doesn't really get a lot of variety from it. He is still using Shadow Clones and the Rasengan variations. Now he has the Magma Rasengan, and he also uses the 9 Biju Rasengan Jutsu, Rasenshuriken. It's powerful and it looks great, but it's, in the end of the day, another Rasengan variation. Now, he does use a couple of different things as well. First, he has that very godly ability to heal people. For example, 8 Gates guy, Naruto touches his chest and he doesn't die anymore. Also, Naruto touches Kakashi's eye and another eye pops back because Madara stole his Sharingan. He also has the truth-seeking orbs, which you would think they would be a very big deal because Obito and Jubidara were using them a lot to great effect against the main characters. And now Naruto got them. You're thinking, whoa, this is a big deal. But no, Naruto doesn't really use them all that much. He doesn't seem to be very proficient at using them. He does 3 things essentially with them. First, he creates a staff which he attacks Madara with without much success, might I add. He then uses them to create a flying platform for Sasuke to fly in the fight against Kaguya, which, yeah, pretty useful to be honest, but I could think of more useful things to do with this godly ability. And then he uses them to block Susanoo arrows in the fight against Sasuke in the Valley of the End. Blocking Susanoo arrows, like, couldn't you just dodge them or do anything more effective than wasting your Bijudamas on them? And then they don't come back, which is kind of weird because you would think, yeah, if you spend them, they're eventually going to return. Maybe your chakra's going to create more of them, but no, apparently you just have the ones you get from the beginning. If you throw them away, they're done, they don't come back, which is pretty weird. It could have been very interesting to see Naruto using the good old Damas like Obito was using them or like Madara was using them, combined with his other jutsus, with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, with the Rasengan. Now granted, he does do this once in the fight against Kaguya. It's not an attack or anything, but he puts his good old Damas around a Shadow Clone to fool Kaguya, making her think that that Shadow Clone was the original, and that works. But, well, sure, that's pretty creative and clever, but it's not the powerful usage of the truth-seeking orbs I would imagine. In the fight against Sasuke, he is essentially just using the Kurama avatar, using Shadow Clones with the Kurama avatar, which is the first time we see that happening, which is interesting, and it's cool to see the Indra Susanoo ducking out with them. And then he uses, again, the 2 massive Rasenshurikens to attack the Indra's arrow. Now, you would imagine that because Naruto has access to the chakra of all tail beasts in that form, he has every nature transformation, everything, he would use other abilities as well. But no, he uses the magnet style that Shukaku gives to him to infuse it in a Rasengan, which is cool, don't get me wrong. He then uses the magma style that Son Goku gives to him to infuse it in the Rasenshuriken, which is cool as well, don't get me wrong. But then you're thinking, well, couldn't you do something else? Maybe something more, interesting with your abilities sometimes? use a combo, something to that extent in the story, like he was doing in regular Sage mode in the fight against Pain. Well, he does use the reverse harem jutsu, which is a very unexpected technique, to be sure, in the fight against Kaguya. I'm not sure if I like that or not. I'm still on the fence about it. I mean, I don't like Kaguya at all. I'm talking about him using this jutsu in that particular moment. I don't know if I like the comedy or not. But you can see that in the fight against Kaguya, Naruto's strategy boils down to the same old, same old. He spams a billion shadow clones and uses chakra hands to counter Kaguya's chakra hands. That's one of the most unengaging parts of any fight scene in the Naruto story. It's not very interesting to look at. I mean, it's two massive chakra hands clashing against each other. I mean, it's not the best. The only cool thing Naruto did in that section of the fight was, you know, fooling Kaguya with the truth-seeking orders, which, by the way, it's another jutsu that Naruto gets, you know, variety and all that, but, and in the end of the day, he doesn't do a lot more stuff. And even though Kaguya's jutsus, they're pretty lackluster and they don't look good, she does have a decent variety of them. Now, it's no secret that Kishimoto isn't a fan of jiggling too many jutsus in the same fight. That's why some characters that have the Rinnegan just choose not to use a lot of Rinnegan abilities when it would be a very good idea to do so. For example, when Naruto was about to unmask Obito in the Kami dimension and he hit Obito in the face with a Rasengan, Obito could have used the Preta path to absorb that Rasengan and he wouldn't be unmasked. But of course, Kishimoto needed Obito to be unmasked in that moment, and using a Rasengan for that would be more impactful instead of Naruto just going and punching him. But just take a look at the other Rinnegan users. Madara, Sasuke, even Obito himself. They barely ever use the Six Paths abilities. They mostly just use Chibaku Tensei when they do so, and sometimes the Preta path. Sasuke even has access to more jutsus that he kind of forgets he has, like Genjutsu, like Amaterasu and Flame Control, and all kinds of stuff. And because Naruto is the main character, it's very likely that Kishimoto doesn't want to write too many jutsus to complicate himself and maybe write himself into a corner. Some people say that he wrote himself into a corner by giving Madara too much stuff, and that's why he used the Zetsu thing to retcon everything and ruin the story. But there are ways to work around it. It takes more effort. It's more difficult to write battles between two characters with a lot of different powers, but Kishimoto himself has pulled that off in the past. Just take a look at the Sasuke fights in the middle of Naruto Shippuden, such as against Deidara and against Itachi. Those fights are great, and there is a lot of jutsu variety in them. And even some amazing characters like Might Guy, they are not terribly diverse in the terms of their arsenal. Guy has a couple of taijutsu abilities that scale up the higher he goes in the gates. You know, his taijutsu thing is pretty much what he has going for him. You don't really have to have this immense pool of jutsus to be interesting in fights. No, the problem is that Naruto is quite literally the main character, the most important character in the story, and the character that's gonna get the biggest amount of fights and screen time. So, when we see him time and time again using the same abilities, it can feel repetitive, even though there are some times in the story where Kishimoto does a lot of variety to Naruto, especially in the fight against Pain. But when Naruto should have used more jutsu, especially in Six Path Sage mode, he just doesn't do anything, which is a little bit disappointing. It doesn't ruin what Naruto was doing in that part of the story by any means, and I would even argue that if Naruto wasn't the main character and if he had the exact same jutsu variety, people wouldn't complain nearly as much about it. It's just because Naruto is always in the spotlight. And his main rival and the second most important character in the series, Sasuke, does have a lot of jutsu variety, even though he may forget he has them a lot of the time. Kishimoto went as far as to take away Sasuke's curse mark because he had too much stuff going for him. But I can also see it getting a little silly if Naruto began using every single different jutsu that every tail beast would provide to him, like him spitting acid, using steam control, using magma style, and sand the Shukaku gives to him. That would get silly and really fanficky. So a balance has to be struck, and I believe that what we got was better than just this fanfiction amount of a billion jutsus being used. The closest we got to that was the 9 different Rasenshurikens, which was a cool scene, and it wasn't overt and too much, because we had seen Naruto just bomb rushing characters before with a billion Rasengan. It's just at this time time, they all had a different flavor to them. So is he a one-trick pony? No, he's not a one-trick pony. He does have a lot of tricks up his sleeve, even when he is using the Shadow Clones and the Rasengans. Could he have more jutsu variety? Yes, absolutely. He should have had more jutsus in the story, variety in his wind style abilities, jutsus that the Tail Beast gave to him in the end of the series. Maybe not too much, but a little bit more will be good. And also, he is an Uzumaki. He should have learned a good sealing jutsu somewhere along the series, and not just like in the very end with the magnet style Rasengan. If you're setting up the Uzumaki clan to be the greatest sealers in the world, then you should probably give the main character who is an Uzumaki a sealing jutsu to, you know, show that and also pay that promise off. Like this video if you enjoy my content, subscribe as well. These two things really help me a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and also watch this other video showing up on screen for more entertaining Naruto content. Thank you so much for watching.